And the answer to the question, what have the Romans ever done for us, becomes a lot clearer. A lot. Okay, Damo, thanks for the history lesson, mate, but what the hell has that got to do with Australia in 2023? Well, for one, it means we might want to not be so smug and arrogant when we toss aside thousands of years of European history with cheap catchphrases like evil colonisers, and we might want to have some respect and be a little more conservative and a little less progressive so we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like the fine Australian senator from the good state of Victoria.
I sit in that parliament and every day they say that they are sovereign. The colonial system and the colonisers say they are sovereign. You don't go to someone else's country and say that you're sovereign.
Secondly, have you heard of the Mabo and Wick decisions on native title and land rights? These court rulings from the 1990s awarded significant shared rights to Aboriginal people to land that they make a claim on. Governments then had to step in and make laws through the authority of Parliament, that's the House of the People, over the courts to ensure that existing mining and farming rights were protected. This was so as not to let uncertainty about their property rights stop any of the owners from going ahead with important projects like they did under the Romans, leading themselves into the Dark Ages. So Parliament, representing the will of us, the people, was able to override the High Court rulings, or at least make them more workable in practice, as it should be. Okay, Damo, that's nice, but again, what the heck has that got to do with 2023 Australia? Well, there's this little referendum on an Aboriginal voice to Parliament being asserted into our Constitution, and it will be an entirely new chapter of the Constitution, not just a few lines added in. Have you wondered to yourself why they're so hell-bent on changing the Constitution? Why can't they just set up another ATSIC or Aboriginal advisory body and make sure it operates well and doesn't have to be shut down like ATSIC did? Why can't we make ordinary laws to enshrine an Aboriginal advisory body? Why do we need to change the Constitution? Because that changes everything. Parliament cannot pass laws, meaning we the people can't pass laws over things like land rights if those laws breach the Constitution. And the body that decides on whether laws breach the Constitution is the High Court of Australia. And that's why this is so troubling, as University of Queensland Professor James Allen explained a couple of weeks ago in our Tuesday night show, The Other Side Interviews.
It's very important that people understand how large the changes being suggested are. It will have, in my view, very bad consequences if this goes through. What a written constitution does is it locks things in, so it makes it harder than just passing a statute to change. If you write that into the Constitution, it's almost impossible to change. So some people will be born and they'll have the right to pick people who sit on this voice body. The judges will have all these new tools to override the elected legislature. It'll be harder to make laws. Anyone who thinks this is going to lead to unity is bonkers. It's going to be divisive. Just look across at New Zealand. The actual wording that's been proposed is that this voice body, nobody knows how it's going to be chosen. That's you can get the details later. And the wording is may make representations to Parliament and the Executive on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Islander Strait peoples. So may make representations. There's lots of scope for the High Court to turn that into a constitutional right to be consulted. Not just Parliament, but every executive decision. So that's every bureaucratic body. You can imagine the rent seeking that's going to happen. You can imagine the sort of sclerotic ability. My guess, and John O'Sullivan had a law that said every body in the world that's not explicitly right-wing over time becomes left-wing. The activist class will capture this body. And I think one of the reasons Labour's not too worried about this is it's a bit like the Senate. And if you want to be a big spending government, just spend like crazy. You never have a problem getting through the Senate because these little independents just go, oh yeah, more money for. If you want to cut back on the budget and do something really restrained, it's very difficult to get that through the Senate. Well, it's going to be like that on steroids with this voice body.